Coming up on today's episode of Inside Man United, the headlines. Does Sir Jim Ratcliffe's latest interview and his Arteta comments reveal his stance on Ten Hag's future at United? And Kobby Mayu gets his first senior England squad call-up. Fabrizio Romano claims Man United star is not entirely happy at Old Trafford as he tips 3 players to leave. And United ramp up interest in a €135 million winger swap, but Ratcliffe faces Arsenal problem as star picks Arteta. All that coming up. Hello everybody, welcome back to the show. A very good morning to you and thanks once again for joining me. And as always, if you are new to these parts and you like the content, don't forget to hit like and subscribe, add that notification button as well. But yeah, without further ado, let's get stuck into our headlines for today. And some of the comments coming out of this podcast that Sir Jim Ratcliffe gave to the Geraint Thomas Cycling Club podcast, which I had spoken a little bit about in yesterday's podcast. And Sir Jim Ratcliffe was asked about the title race, and he said he hopes Arsenal win the Premier League this season because they have been quote unquote patient with Mikel Arteta. And he goes on to say, I hate them all, when he was asked who he would rather win. So that's always an encouraging comment you want to hear from your new owners. You want to hear them emotionally invested in the club and speak like a true fan. So he says, I hate them all. We've got Liverpool, City and Arsenal. I don't know. They're all the enemy. Good man, Sir Jim. That's what we want to hear. I couldn't possibly choose, before he goes on to choose. But, you know, we'll forgive him that. Ratcliffe told the Geraint Thomas Cycling Club podcast. So check that out as well if you want to get the full length and breadth of what he was talking about on that podcast. But he just goes on to say, it'd be good for Arteta, actually. I think it would be good for him because he's done really well there. And Arsenal have been patient with him, which is nice as well. So people are kind of putting 2 and 2 together here and getting 5. But to be honest, it looks like he does respect the process of being patient. And that does bode well for Mr. Ten Hag. So let me just see. Yeah, I'm not on mute there. It's good to see him say something like that. PK is going on to say stuff about United having to put trust in youth, which I think it's abundantly clear we have been with players being promoted and our reliance on young lads like Hoyland, Garnacho and Mainoo recently, and even Kimwala, who came in and did a decent job when he's been asked to come in. PK goes on to say the difference with Barcelona is that this period of transition at Manchester United has been going on now for quite a long period of time. It's been quite a few years, and they've not been able to win the title. They don't know where to go. Little by little, they're trying to put everything back together in order to compete for titles. I still believe Ten Hag is a very good coach. I don't really know if he'll be able to turn things around, but the win against Liverpool was incredible. That's the sort of victory that will give them power. It happens when you were suffering as a club. It was the same at Barcelona, but you have to trust in the academy players. Ferguson did it with the class of 92, and they're going to have to trust the next generation in the same way. They spent a lot of money. It hasn't worked out, so why not give a new young generation the chance to at least try and perform? And I think that's what's happening. We'll see what's going on. Now, this is terrifying me. This particular news story about Gareth Southgate. Now, everything that INEOS, Ratcliffe, Brailsford, all these guys have been doing so far, I've really liked. But this interest in Gareth Southgate absolutely terrifies me. He's a shit manager. Sorry, I'm just going to say that. Even England fans think he's a shit manager. And any of his fans will go, oh, look, he got to a final and a semi-final. That England team has kind of fallen over the finish line to get that far in those competitions. They've had easy run-ins. They've had a good mixture of results elsewhere. They haven't really been wholly convincing in the tournaments themselves. Qualifying, they look great. Every England bosses look great with the England team during qualifying. They always do well during qualifying and then shit the bed when it comes to the final act. So for Gareth Southgate to even be considered for this is abhorrent, in my opinion. So Roberto Martinez, seems to be doing okay, with that Belgian squad. Now he's got the Portuguese squad. He's been given these great, strong squads, but he did nothing with an incredibly talented Belgian squad, got them to, ranked number one in the world. Amazingly, I don't know how that really happened. The fact that they won nothing, but the way these rankings and points per win and all this kind of shit, it does make that table look a little bit messy sometimes. But the fact of the matter is, he didn't get the job done with that Belgian squad, and now he's been given the Portuguese squad. He might do something with that, but international football is a very, very different game to club ball, and I hope to God Gareth Southgate does not get the nod. But apparently, he's got a lot of fans within the hold of Manchester. So apparently Dan Ashworth likes him, the boys at INEOS like him, and it frightens me to death that he could be a serious consideration for the United job, but we'll just have to wait and see. But personally, I don't think there is a snowball's chance in hell that he's going to be getting the job, because he doesn't play football in any way close to the way a United team should. I don't think he's very inspiring. He's done very little and has been thoroughly unimpressive at club level. And I think it would be a joke if we hired him. So please God, no. And speaking of international football, Mr. Kobby Mayu will be playing under Gareth Southgate, but for the England team, thank God. And deservedly so. He does deserve his call-up. He's done very, very well, and he's been, pottering around with the under-21s, and obviously did very well with them during their tournament success a year or two ago. Was he part of that under-21 squad? He may have been. But yeah, he's in for the friendlies now against Brazil and Belgium. Look at him there, looking very pleased with himself. And why not, Mr. Mainoo? I think you deserve it. Let me just increase the size of this just to make things a little bit easier for people to have a look at. We go 175. Let's go 175. And there we go. Look at Kobbie, looking very, very pleased with himself. So yeah, been promoted to the England first team, and absolutely, why not? I mean, for a man of his tender years to basically be the first name on the team sheet now behind Bruno as our captain, I mean, he's an automatic starter and first pick ahead of Mason Mount, Casemiro, Sofian Amrabat, Christian Erikson. Very well-established first-team international footballers who've been plying their trade in the first team, whether it's in Serie A or the Premier League. So he's done very well to keep these guys at bay. And he goes on to say, I was with the under-21s and I got a text from the England assistant manager, Steve Holland, telling me to come and meet him at reception. He just told me I've been called up. I don't think it's sunk in yet, but he's very excited and it's an honour. And it's great. We need to see, young English players that are playing for United, making a stab at getting into the international setup. It's just going to get him more experience and just make him a more complete player. Obviously, there's going to be worries now with him, being tied up into the international setup. It's going to, more injury risks, more game time, more miles on the clock. But listen, that's what you're going to have to put up with when you get top talents, and you want your players being international standard as well. So Christian Erikson, one of the players he's ousted, goes on to say Kobbie is doing well and the rest of the midfield is also performing well, so there is competition for places. And we're going to talk a little bit more about Christian Erikson with the Fabrizio Romano comments. Southgate said of Mainoo, he's doing brilliantly. I'm not certain he's necessarily going to be a defensive midfielder as such. He's quite a progressive player, but he's had a fabulous start to his career and it will be good to monitor him. Of course he's not a defensive midfielder. He's a number 8. That's what he does. He's box to box, can do a little bit of defense, a little bit of attack, link up play. He's not a destroyer. He's just a very cultured footballer, and I hope he's not deployed as a 6, especially when you've got the likes of Declan Rice there, and Calvert Phillips kind of providing some support there when he is fit. So Mainoo will be hopeful of making his debut against Brazil on Saturday or against Belgium on Tuesday. So I mean, if you had a midfield of Declan Rice, Jude Bellingham and Kobby Mayu for the next 5 to 6 years, I don't think he'll be getting in just yet with Jude and Declan, but Jude Bellingham is now an automatic starter at the age of 2021. Could Mainoo be doing that over the next 2 or 3 years? You'd kind of have to assume that with the trajectory his career is at and what he's been doing and the influence he's had for this United team at the very top of the table. And you saw some of the stuff he did in that Liverpool game. He's a very composed, just a slick footballer. And I think the England setup should be very, very excited at the thought of having Declan Rice, Jude Bellingham and Kobby Mayu as a midfield 3 with the plethora of options that they have in front and behind. This England team with the right manager could and should win a World Cup, in my opinion. They're every bit as good as that French team. So yeah, very, very best of luck to Kobbie and what he can do with the international setup. Let's see what happens. Okay, so on to Football 365 and Joe Williams here with Fabrizio Romano having a little bit of information for us regarding 3 United players, primarily around Christian Erikson and Rafael Varane. The third player in question is Sofian Amrabat. We all know what's going to happen to him. There's no way he's getting a sniff of making a permanent transfer to United. It's just not going to happen. So I think he's going to be running back to Serie A with his tail between his legs. Unfortunate, because I had high hopes for the guy. Really good stats. Very good ability to cross and got good mid to long range passing accuracy. But like I've always said, huge jump between Serie A and the Premier League, and a lot of players just cannot hack it. So Romano goes on to say he expects Varane to leave and Erikson is not entirely happy. And, Erikson, I mean, he's at that stage of his career where there's certain realities that footballers need to just accept. He's got a lot of miles on the clock. He nearly wasn't alive anymore after his heart attack on the pitch, and he should kind of count himself lucky that what has happened to him. He's at a club like Manchester United, and of course he wants to play more first team ball, but you can see he's just blatantly not able to do 90 minutes. He was barely able to do it last year, and we've seen him on many occasions. He can be a real weak point for this United team in not having any defensive capabilities, and that's just not really acceptable in a Ten Hag team. You got to attack and defend as a team, and Erikson does leave us wanting, and has been suspect in a lot of goals that we've conceded when he has been on the pitch. But if you're chasing a game and you're going to have a lot of possession and the other team is going to be defending, we've seen Erikson come on and be massively impactful when he doesn't have to defend. He can face the opponent's goal and he can do what he does best, which is create. But if it's, all things being even and you got 90 minutes on the clock and there's a lot of up and down, running back and trying to defend, Erikson's going to leave you wanting. So he's the right tool for the right job, and he might need to just kind of wake up to that fact, because he can't play in Italy because their health and safety laws do not allow someone with his condition to play in Serie A. Hence why he moved from Inter Milan to Brentford, and then obviously showed that he can still hack it in the Premier League to a degree and got his move to United. If I were him, I think he should stay at United in a kind of Juan Mata role. Come in and play when you can. The right tool for the right job when we're chasing a game, need a goal, great experience in the dressing room. Come on and, play 30, 35 minutes when we need you. I think he should stay at United. I think he has a lot of value to give to that team, and it keeps him in the upper echelons of the European game, and I think he should stay there. But, if he has ambition to kind of play regular first team ball at this stage in his career, I get that too. So Erikson set for face-to-face talks with Ten Hag. So after the 4-3 win over Liverpool, what a game that was. What a fucking great game. It was so good. I gave my girlfriend a heart attack about 1,000,000 times when she was watching the game beside me, just absolutely roaring my head off every time a goal went in at either end of the pitch. It was brilliant. So Varane and Erikson have both been prone to injury this season. Yes, we know that, which has not helped the Red Devils' cause. Exactly. So while Ten Hag has also opted to leave the duo out of starting 11 for certain matches. So he's just started one match this year. And, it's going to be harder and harder for him, especially when we're going to have new recruits during the summer. We're looking to sell people, but you're not going to get much of a price for Erikson. I don't think he's hugely expensive, and I don't think you're going to get a huge... I want to see Erikson stay. I think people of his ability and experience, you need people like that in the club, especially when we've got so many young players coming in as well, particularly attack-minded players too. So I think they could learn a lot from him. So he's just started one match at the start of the year, and Varane has been more of a regular in the starting lineup in recent weeks. But again, he's been injured, and he's wholly unreliable in terms of injuries. You don't know when he's going to be in, when he's going to be out. So it's tough. It's tough. But Romano insists it's very likely that Varane departs United. There was talk that Varane was very, very keen on finishing his career at United. I did read those reports as well, saying he was happy to accept a new contract with reduced terms because he wants to finish his career at United, which I was personally very surprised to hear. But then obviously you're going to have other publications saying the opposite. And he's revealed that he's unhappy. Erikson is... And he's revealed that unhappy Erikson is set for face-to-face talks with Ten Hag and the club. Romano wrote in his caught offside column, another player who's not entirely happy with the situation is United's Christian Erikson, who spoke in an interview about his conversations with Erik Ten Hag. He has made it clear he's not happy always being on the bench. But to be honest, Erikson just needs to wake up to the fact that he isn't the player he used to be, and he has been a weak point for United in many games. And again, right tool for the right job. But as a 90-minute player or someone starting from the beginning when all players are fresh and you'll need to track back and have some defensive work to take care of, sorry, Christian. He might do well in Germany. He might do well in France. But again, it's time for him to wake up to the realities of his aging engine. The plan now is for Erikson to discuss the future ahead of the summer transfer window in face-to-face talks with Ten Hag. He's appreciated the club as an honest and super professional, so United will be clear with him and we will see both sides' decisions. As things stand, it looks like Erikson and Amrabat could be two players who could leave United in the summer. I don't think there's anything new that we can add to the Amrabat story. He's definitely gone back to Fiorentina. Varane stay at United looking unlikely. He also adds, I've also had many questions about Varane. We've had many rumours about him receiving a new contract proposal, but this is not my understanding. So again, this is what I've been hearing as well, that there was a new proposal. He does want to finish his time in the professional game at United. And to be honest, I don't see Varane getting to a bigger club than United at the upper end of the European game just because of his age. You might see him like Pepe, going to Porto or, playing in a lower league. He might do really well at Serie A when, you don't have to run as much. The intensity isn't as high. The quality isn't as high. He might do well there, maybe get a Serie A under his belt, go play for Inter or AC, Juve, one of the teams that might have a bit of a shout at getting a Serie A title. I could definitely see that happening, but whether they could afford his wages or what he'd be looking for remains to be seen. But when he's on a free transfer, I'm sure there's going to be no shortage of interest in him. From what I told, Varane has not received a single contract proposal and there is no negotiation with United. Given what he will cost, even at 200 grand a week, which is a 35% reduction on his current wages, United could get in, Eleni Yaro from Lille, Jean-Claire Todibo, Scalvini from Serie A, could be Goncalo Inacio, Antonio Silva. Jared Branthwaite needs to be paid for as well. We've got Kimwala also coming through. So I can see the money that you would be paying him weekly. You could divide those wages among three players that are under the age of 22, 23 and get them in and see what happens. They'll also have resale value and you need to have fresh, young, energetic legs at that back line. And we've seen that this season. So, I'd wish Varane all the luck in the world, but I'd be happy to see him go, given how much money he's going to be able to free up in the FFP pressure the club is under. I expect Varane to have many options in Europe and in Saudi for sure. He will take his time over his future, but at current stages, it looks unlikely for Varane to stay at Man United. And I would agree with you there, Fabrizio. So we kick on to our last story here. United ramp up interest. This headline's a little misleading. 135 million euro winger swap. They're basically adding the transfer fees of Daniel Malen and Jadon Sancho and saying that this is some sort of 135 million euro winger swap. I don't know what that value is and to whom it's going, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But an interesting one to hear about Malen. It does look like there is interest from United in Malen. And he could be kind of the make weight to make room for Sancho. They kind of play in similar positions. And Malen's been doing reasonably well at Dortmund, but I just don't trust the Bundesliga. I don't trust Dortmund. We've had our asses handed to us with players from that club for so long. And, I'm not keen for it to happen again. So United are refusing to take no for an answer, with Sir Jim Ratcliffe ready to offer Jadon Sancho in a swap deal for a top winger target, in spite of claims the player in question favours a move to Arsenal. So it goes on to say that Ratcliffe is keen to land Malen and to get Sancho off the books. So while he's taken time to rediscover his best form, the signs have been positive for the 23-year-old in recent weeks. He's got 2 goals and 2 assists, or 1 assist in 10 games. It's fine. It's grand. Nothing to write home about. I don't think we're going to be missing Jadon Sancho's abilities at United. So they're open to the possibility of wanting to keep him. I don't blame them, but it has to be at the right price. But they're saying that there's growing interest in getting Daniel Malen in return. Which could make sense because Malen would have to make way for Sancho, guaranteed. He's 2 years older, maybe has a lower ceiling than Sancho potentially, but he's having a pretty decent season, all things considered, scoring 13 times, 5 assists in 33 games. That's 18 goal involvements in 33 games. That's a goal involvement in every kind of 1.8, 1.7 games. It's a pretty good ratio, if you ask me. And so Dortmund keen to re-sign Sancho on a permanent basis. Malen may feel that he is a sacrificial lamb on that deal, and I think he would be correct. Furthermore, reports in his native Netherlands have confirmed that Malen is also keen to try his luck in the league, which is true. However, Malen used to be on the books at Arsenal between 2015 and 2017, never made a senior appearance before he made his way to PSV Eindhoven. And it seems that, you know, he might have unfinished business at Arsenal. He knows the city. Obviously, London is a more attractive prospect than Manchester for many. And obviously, Arsenal are at the right end of the table now. They've got a great project. But, I mean, who does he replace? Martinelli? No. Is he going to replace Saka? No. He's going to be number 2. If he goes to United, there's every chance that he could start as the kind of the starting right-sided attacker there, despite Anthony's heroics against Liverpool and his chest beating and his badge pointing and his number 1 and all this kind of stuff. I think it's a bit too little too late for Mr. Anthony, but he did play bloody well in that Liverpool game. And if we saw more of that now between now and the beginning of next season, if he's given that chance, you know, maybe he could turn things around. Who knows? But I think not. It's reported that Ratcliffe feels Malen ticks a lot of boxes for United and is ready to push forward with efforts to land the Dutchman in a straight swap deal for Sancho. Now, that might work, you know, if they value him at 40 or 50 million, you know, you mightn't get more than 30 for Sancho in a direct sale. So, you know, you give us him, you get him, and you know, we'll move on. That could work. It says here that Ratcliffe will face a bit of competition from Arsenal, so he's facing a hefty problem in his quest to land the former PSG star. After reports in Germany indicate that Malen actually favours a move to Arsenal. So it's saying here, everything I've just told you might be having to replace or oust Saka or provide competition. There's no way he's getting ahead of Saka. And yeah, it suggests the 28 times capped winger feels he has unfinished business with the Gunners and would jump at the chance at a return to Arsenal's star-studded squad. So yeah, let's see what happens there. It could be an interesting one, but if Donyell Malen can replicate the form that he's had this season with Dortmund at United, there's no reason why he couldn't stake a claim for. And as always, everyone, thank you very, very much for joining me. As I said yesterday, I've gone over the 500 subs threshold. So thank you very, very much to everyone who keeps tuning in and helping out with the channel. And if you do like the content and your thumbs can spare a few seconds, it'd be great if you could hit a like button, subscribe, and that notification as well. Put your thoughts in the comments. What do you think? Would you take Donyell Malen for Sancho? Would you have a straight swap, or do you think we should just sell for cash and maybe reinvest somewhere else and maybe give some youth a chance? Does Omari Forson have a chance there? You know, does Mason Mount maybe potentially have a future there? I think there's a few people. Does Garnacho stay out on the right-hand side? I mean, he seems to be doing okay out there, but, you know, will he be going back out onto the left if Rashford is sold to PSG? And, yeah, would you be sad to see Christian Erikson go as well? I think I'd like to see him still stay at the club. I think we need people like Johnny Evans and Christian Erikson that have those old senior heads demanding certain standards and, you know, showing an example of leadership and professionalism that can bleed into those younger players. I think it's very, very important that we have that. Kobby Mayu, great news for the kid. Hope he does well at England. Seems like he's going to force his way in there, and I don't think there's going to be any looking back for that kid. And yeah, let's see what happens. Thanks again for joining me. And as always, I will see you on the next one.